Hi, welcome to Lower Body Strengthen. So looking at strengthening through the legs, hips and glutes and the core, front and back of the body today. No props needed unless you'd like a couple of blocks for wide leg forward fold. Otherwise, let's get started standing today. So bringing the feet to at least hips width apart. So somewhere where you can feel really grounded, where you're not going to feel wobbly. And then bringing the eyes to close when you're ready. So we're going to do quite a lot of work standing today. So taking a moment to notice the grounding of your feet on the mat. Maybe noticing the parts of the feet that support your body. So maybe balls of the feet, heels, sides of the feet. And you'll notice that there can be quite a bit of movement in the body, maybe swaying side to side without you falling over, even with the eyes closed. So sometimes this is important to bear in mind that there's a lot more support through the feet than we sometimes give them credit for when we're feeling wobbly. And if you do end up wobbling today, or falling out, or falling over, or whatever it might be, then also know that when we're wobbling, we're building strength in those muscles. So sometimes it's not a bad thing to have a little wobble. Every now and again, you're still building a lot of strength when you're doing that, when you're trying to keep your balance. So maybe noticing how you can broaden through the feet. And noticing how as you press down through the feet, you can get a sense of the rest of the body being supported. So this is our first point of support when we come to anything working with the lower body if we're standing. Moving up to your legs, maybe drawing your awareness to what happens if you use the legs to press down into the feet, or to kind of lift up and away from the feet. So getting a sense of how the legs also support you and balance the muscles that are used. And maybe using them to ground down into the feet and noticing if that feels any more secure, having that awareness of the legs and the feet grounding down. Moving up to your hips. So a lot of movement comes through the hips. In fact, almost any standing movement tends to involve the hips, and they can get really, really tight. So it's worth paying attention to how the hips support the body, particularly if we're using them for exercises that involve the glutes, so the buttocks. Noticing how you can use the hips to help support the legs in being stable, in feeling grounded. Noticing your core, so the abdominals at the front, the lower back at the back. So both of these make up the core together. And maybe noticing how you can almost lift them up and out of the pelvis, so finding a bit of extra length in the spine. And maybe as you exhale, you could get a sense of the abdominals wrapping around the side of the waist, so almost like a corset for the body. Often we think about engaging the abs as just kind of tightening and squeezing the abs at the front, but actually the abs work not just at the front but at the sides as well, and these are really important for support. It's also what gives us a waist, and it's often the area that that people want to see changing. They want to see it to be different when they're doing work on their core. So seeing if you can get a sense of engaging those muscles at the side as well, that wrapping around the waist feeling as you exhale. And then seeing if you can lengthen through the lower back, perhaps by tucking in the lower ribs at the front. So you'll notice if you tuck in the lower ribs at the front, a little bit more length is created in the back of the body. Having a little play around, seeing if you can find some length through the spine at the back of the body. And now with your awareness on all of these areas that we're going to work on today, maybe seeing if you feel more stable in this standing position, more connected with the ground, more aware of what's going on in your body. And then lastly, opening up through the chest, broadening the chest. Maybe the hands open up towards the front of the room and lengthening through the crown of the head. And maybe the upper body has the opportunity to feel a little bit of lightness here, almost like it's floating on top of the lower body that's grounding down and supporting. Taking a few breaths, breathing into the lower ribs, the side ribs, finding expansion in that space in the mid to upper body. And as you exhale, grounding down into the earth with your lower body. Taking one more deep inhalation here, filling your body with nourishing oxygen, ready for practice. And exhaling, rooting down through the feet, through the hips into the ground. On your next inhale, allowing your eyes to open, we'll come into a couple of side stretches for the body, grounding down into the right foot. Left foot comes behind the body onto the toes. And then sliding your right hand down the right thigh. Inhaling, left arm lifts up and maybe it comes overhead, bringing the arm by the ear. So taking this opening stretch as far as you want to, you don't have to come very far at all. Getting a sense of opening up the side waist, maybe the side of the hip. On your next inhale, back to center, left arm comes down, left foot back to the middle. And then right foot behind the body, onto the toes. Left hand sliding down the left leg, inhaling, right arm reaches up, and maybe it comes over slightly. So this is a really nice stretch if you want to find a little bit of length in the side of the body. And it just kind of warms up the body, ready for class, ready for the other movements that we're going to do. Inhaling, right arm back to center, stepping back to center, and then finding your way to the top of the mat if you're not already there. Starting off with the feet hips width apart here. Inhaling, arms reach up to the side, up overhead, palms together. And then exhaling, hinging forwards into your forward fold. You can take a bend in the knees if you want for this first one. Or you can let the arms dangle, or maybe the hands come to the ground. Allowing the head to be heavy here. In whatever position you're in, no matter what version of forward fold you're taking, allowing the upper body to be heavy. Inhaling, hands come either to your shins or your thighs, finding yourself a position where you can find lots of length and openness in your halfway lift. Exhaling back into forward fold. Inhaling to halfway lift, so opening up the back of the body here, the back of the legs, and providing a little bit of movement through the spine. Exhaling, forward fold. As you inhale, rolling through the spine, nice and slow, one vertebrae at a time, all the way to stand. Arms come out to the side, up overhead, reaching tall, and hands to prayer in front of your heart. So we're going to add on chair pose into this sequence, so you can either stay with the feet hips width apart, or if you prefer, you can bring the feet together, up to you. As you inhale this time, arms reaching forwards, hips come back into your chair, taking a little look down to make sure the Knees are not beyond your toes. Sometimes they tend to sneak forward, so drawing the weight back into the heels. And then arms reaching as high up as feels good. You can keep them a bit wider if that's nice. And sinking down. And then seeing if you can tuck the lower ribs in here, like we were talking about at the beginning, to help find length through the lower back. One more breath in your chair. Exhale, release to forward fold. Inhaling, bringing the hands to shins, drawing the spine long, halfway lift. And exhaling, forward fold. Inhaling, bending through the knees, rising up into your chair, reaching forward, arms strong, legs strong, allowing the hips to maybe sink a little lower. Exhaling into your forward fold. Inhaling, reaching long in your halfway lift. Exhaling, taking your forward fold. One last time, coming into chair, lowering the hips, rising up, reaching tall. And we'll stay here for a couple of breaths. So it's particularly important if we're doing a pose like this, trying not to hold the breath. Still bring the breath deep into the side and lower ribs. Getting a sense of the abdominals wrapping around the waist. Drawing the lower back long by tucking the lower ribs, shoulders down away from the ears. And then rising up to stand, reaching tall, hands to prayer, finding your way back to center. From here, grounding down into the right foot. So thinking of those places that we spoke about at the beginning, finding that rooting down, the pressing down with the right foot. As you inhale, arms lift, and maybe the left foot also lifts, coming into half mountain. As you exhale, hands come back, stepping into your high lunge. So as you're in high lunge, to help with your balance here, really pressing into the heel of that front foot, as well as the toes of the back, so getting a sense of being very grounded here. And then coming back up into your half mountain, so again, using the toes to bring the weight into the heel of the front foot as you press forward and rise up. Exhaling, back into your high lunge. Finding somewhere to focus on to help with this transition. Inhaling forward. Exhaling back. Inhaling forward. Taking one more breath here. And then lowering the foot down, hands to prayer, a little shake out with the legs. We'll come on to the other side. So grounding down through the left foot this time, finding your spot to focus on. Inhaling, arms reach up, right foot reaches up. Exhaling, back into your low lunge. Inhaling forward. And exhaling back. So using the hands to help steady you, it's okay to wobble. Inhaling forward. And exhaling back. So seeing how you go with this one. Inhaling forward. One more breath. And then hands together. Bringing the foot down and a little shake. Bringing the feet together this time for chair, or you can take the wide leg chair if you prefer. Bending the knees, reaching forward, sinking down. We're going to stay here for a couple of breaths. On your next inhale, rising up onto the tiptoes, staying in your chair. Squeezing the thighs together, hugging them together to keep your support. Sinking the hips lower. One more breath. Lowering the heels down, staying in your chair. And then exhale, taking a forward fold. Inhale, rising up, rolling through the spine and reaching up overhead. Hands to prayer. We're going to take a nice step down through the mat. So coming into a wide leg position. And bringing the feet to parallel with the edges of the mat here. So coming into wide leg forward fold, hands to the waist, opening up through the chest, and then hinging forward from the hips as you come forward. So this is where, if the hands don't reach the ground, you can absolutely grab a couple of blocks. Or if they don't reach the ground, you can keep hands to the waist and allow the head to be heavy. So finding your place here. We're going to take a couple of breaths, so releasing the back of the legs after that work. And then bringing the hands to the waist if they're not already there, rising up, leading with the chest. And when you get there, bringing the heels in and the toes out. As you inhale, opening up through the chest. Exhale, sinking down, coming into goddess. So in goddess pose, we've got the knees over the ankles. You might need to adjust your feet a little bit. Seeing if you can keep the spine long. And then we're going to bring the hands up to either side of the head. Getting a sense of keeping the knees open. So if you notice them starting to cave in, seeing if you can actively open the knees. And then as we stay here in this goddess squat, we're going to do a couple of little side crunches. Exhaling over to the right. Inhaling to center. Exhaling to the left. Inhaling to center. So still staying grounded down, keeping that squat if you can, lowering the hips if that feels good. And you can come as far over as you want with these side crunches. Using your breath here, not holding the breath. So exhaling, inhaling back to center. We're going to do 2 more on each side. One more to go on each side. And then back to center, reaching tall, cactus lion's breath. And then straightening the legs. You'll be glad to know, hands to the waist. Taking the feet parallel with the edges of the mat again. And we're going to take a wide leg forward fold once more. Exhaling, coming forward, leading with the chest. And letting the whole of the upper body super soft and relaxed. Maybe a shake of the head. Allowing a moment for the legs to not be working as hard. As you inhale, hands to the waist if they're not already there. Pressing down with the feet, leading with the chest. And we're going to come back into goddess, so toes out, heels in. When you're ready, sinking down. This time, hands into cactus at the side, so palms facing forward, bending the elbows. And then you can either stay here and do some pulses, or if you want to, you can come up either onto one or both toes. So coming into a kind of a tiptoe goddess. And then seeing if you can sink the hips down a little lower. Staying here for 2 more breaths if you can. One more breath. Lowering the heels if you lifted them. Really squat nice and low, keeping the spine long. And then hands to hips, rising up. Coming back into your wide leg forward fold, hips to parallel. Exhale, coming down, hands to the ground, and everything goes heavy in the upper body. Taking a deep sigh out through the mouth. Taking a couple more breaths here. Really allowing the upper body to be soft. And then lengthening the spine here so that the hands are directly underneath the face. We're going to turn the left toes sort of towards the front of the mat. And we're going to transition from here straight into boat pose. So using the right hand to bring the right foot forward and come to sit. And maybe you can keep that right foot off the floor. So once you get here, either lifting one or both legs, coming up into boat pose. And you can hold on behind the thighs. So when we're looking at boat pose, we want the chest to be far forward and the spine to be long. So if you notice the spine starting to round, then bringing a foot down or holding on behind the thighs. So it'd be completely okay to be in boat pose like this. And swapping legs. Or you can lift both feet from the ground, draw the chest forward. Or you can let go of the legs and have the arms out in front. So I'm going to keep one leg on the floor just to look after my core because I'm pregnant. But absolutely, if you're able to lift both feet, please do give it a go. Otherwise, feel free to stay holding on behind the thighs. You can do one leg at a time. Whatever feels best for you, but seeing if you can keep the spine long and the chest forward. If you're holding on in your boat pose, try for one more breath. And then lowering the feet when you're ready. Everybody wrapping arms around thighs, around shins, and tucking the head in for a breath. On your next inhale, opening up, and option to come through that one more time. So option to either lift both feet, keeping the chest forward. You can also try straightening the legs here if you would like, but seeing if you can keep the chest forward. You can bring hands behind the thighs, or you can do this tapping one foot and then the other, or keeping one foot grounded as you lift the other. So either way, finding a boat pose that works for your body today and looking after your core. Seeing if you can get those exhales that wrap around the body, thinking about that kind of corset we were talking about. Staying with your breath, if you can, for a couple more breaths. And then on your last breath, option to either try and lower down all the way to the floor in your boat pose as slowly as you can, or if you prefer, you can bring the feet to the ground, have a little wrap for a second, and then lower down, either arms out in front, lowering down, or hands behind the thighs and lowering down. Once you get there, we're drawing the right knee into the chest, interlacing fingers behind the shin, straightening out the left leg. And then holding on to the knee with your left hand, right arm comes out to the side. We're coming into a spinal twist. So on your next exhale, gently guiding the right leg across the body to the left. You can come up onto the left hip if you'd like. And then gazing over that right hand and allowing the body to release into this twist. Maybe you let the eyes close here. Taking a few breaths in this spinal twist. On your next inhale, head comes back to center, and then rolling slowly back to center, bringing both feet, bending the knees, both feet to the ground, and swapping over, so lifting the left foot, interlacing fingers behind the left shin, straightening the right leg out, and then holding onto the left leg with the right hand, left arm comes out to the side, gaze over the left arm, as you draw that leg across the body to the right, coming up into the right hip if you wish. So the nice thing about this spinal twist is it kind of does a little bit of stretching of the hip as well. They've worked very hard today. The glutes have worked very hard. So maybe you're feeling a little bit of a stretch there. Taking a couple more breaths, allowing the body to open up in this shape. On your next inhale, head comes to center, and then taking care, rolling back to center, bringing both feet to the ground, knees bent. And we'll take just a little bit of work to release that hip a bit further, just in case that's feeling a little tired from today. So drawing the right knee in towards the chest, then opening the knee, popping the ankle onto the left thigh. And you might feel that staying here using the right hand to open that knee feels really good and feels like enough. If you do want a little bit more of an opening on that hip, then you can lift the left foot from the ground and either interlace fingers behind the thigh or behind the shins. So wherever you pick, seeing if you can still keep the head on the ground and find openness through the chest. So if you notice that the head's trying to lift and the chest is all kind of, and arms are coming in like that, then maybe taking a step back to either the thigh or bringing the foot to the ground. And then you should begin to feel a little bit of opening in that right hip. So all of those kind of tiptoe squats that we've done, goddess squat, chair pose, this works the hips really hard, it works the legs really hard. So taking a couple more breaths to breathe in a little bit of openness into this area. And then lowering that left foot back down if it's lifted, and using your hand to carefully bring the right leg back down to the ground. You can take a little windscreen wiper with the legs here, if that feels good. And then coming onto the other side, left foot lifts onto the right thigh, and then choosing to either open up with the left hand, keeping the right foot on the floor, or maybe you want to lift the right foot and find your place interlacing behind thigh or shin. So it might be quite different on this side. You might have one hip that's very open, one that's very tight. And then sending your breath to any areas that feel tight, anywhere that needs a little bit of openness, maybe visualizing space being created on each exhale. Taking a couple more breaths here, keeping that knee nice and open so that you can get the full benefit of the stretch in the left hip. And then lowering the right foot down if it's lifted, letting go of the fingers, bringing the left foot down and taking that little windscreen wiper through the legs. And from here, finding your way into a comfortable Shavasana, so end of class, coming into our resting pose. Maybe you open up the legs completely, the arms completely. Maybe you'd like to keep the feet on the floor, the knees knocked together, or any other position that feels good. You can take legs up the wall if you've got a wall nearby. And inhaling, filling the body, filling the lower ribs, maybe filling the belly. Exhaling, deep sigh out through the mouth. All of those areas in the lower body that have worked hard, allowing them to ground down into the mat, let go. Completely melting down and being supported. Maybe taking a moment to notice how class felt for you today, how your body felt at the beginning, how it feels now. If there were any areas that felt challenging, then knowing that you're building strength, all of these poses help with building strength, with building balance, stability. Allowing your breath to come and nourish any tired muscles from today's practice. Taking a few moments here for your body to be heavy, for everything to completely let go. Inviting your breath deep into your body. The eyes are closed, the body is open, finding space. I encourage you to stay here for a few minutes if you have time today, letting the benefits from that class really sink into the body before you move on with whatever else is coming. I hope you've enjoyed today. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Namaste.